gonna get this party started, get the tweets out. I'm really in a better mood just resting all day, thank goodness. It really does help. And welcome to the Bonnet Chronicles, y'all. I'm your host, Kalari Gamer Chick. Tonight we are going to be talking about the broken fourth estate, but it is to act like it's been an actual slow news day. Yeah, thank you for the subscription, love. And it's back. I got stuff back. Yeah. Yeah. But to act like it's been a slow news week or even a slow news day would be insane. But that's why we're going to talk about the broken fourth estate, because it has been a mess, y'all. From the way the coverage of Afghanistan has been put out there to even lighthearted stories to more disturbing stories, because last I checked, we're still in a worldwide pandemic with COVID-19. It has been beyond time that we read the people who are supposed to be giving us fair and balanced information, but we now know that's not the case. And I want to talk about the broken fourth estate today because we're seeing it. He thought they had controlled chaos with the Trump administration. They thought that the everyday of scandals and what backdoor shady dealings he can do that we can report on to get our book deals was a thing. Look at Bob Woodward, who made his name off the Watergate scandal and then decided to hold the interview. And I know some people got mad at me last year when I went hard on him, but I'm not. I'm not stopping that. The man had Trump on tape early on last year saying that he was downplaying the severity on purpose. 600,000 people, and that number is still rising. Not as bad as it was before, but it's still a rising number, are no longer here because journalists would rather get book deals than to tell us the truth. The fourth estate is broken, y'all, and it's frustrating to me that I can get more direct knowledge off picking and choosing what I read on social media, because I too have to put my feelings over fact and actually verify things that are sent to me than I can do turning on the TV or reading an article anymore. Because we've seen that the people who own these publications, the people who own these channels that supposedly put out fair and balanced or unbiased liberal media, it's just corporate misery churned up in a pretty package. And we sadly help them do it. When we hate watch, we help them do it. When we retweet something asinine that they say, we help them do it. When we say, oh, I just watch for this certain person, but I turn it off. The moment they know they can get your ratings in one way, they realize they don't have to change a damn thing about themselves. They can continue to put out misery. They can continue to cover things in a way that makes us depressed and miserable and fighting with each other instead of focus on what we need to do to make things better for everybody. The media has gone from any semblance of trying to stand up for moral and ethics to just being who can be the most sensational. And sadly, historically speaking, it's always been that way, but we had a few standout people within the media. One of my personal favorites was Peter Jennings. Every night, my grandmother and I would watch World News Tonight. Why? Because it was comforting seeing Peter Jennings there. It was comforting having him give the news without inflecting too much of himself. He didn't do it to be a superstar. He did it to say the news. A lot of people who didn't watch World News Tonight probably don't know who he is, but I know a ton of people who, when I mention his name, they light up because he was a part of our homes and our household. And it wasn't that he wanted to be a superstar. It was just the way he delivered things, including hard things, but heartwarming things too. He had that balance of just wanting to tell us what was going on, even when he had to tell us one of the hardest things, that he was dying of cancer. I will never forget being in the kitchen when that diagnosis dropped and how calm and reassuring he was, even though he knew he was very sick. And I feel like newer generations aren't going to get that because we are in the day and age of clout. We are in a day and age of manufactured outrage. We are in a day and age where the news can spend hours upon hours questioning whether the president should have taken our troops out of a destabilized area that the last guy made sure was unstable so that his Russian buddy could go in and carve up the place. They don't want to talk about the 5,000 Taliban criminals that were released by the Trump administration. They don't want to talk about how the actual Afghan government failed its people, bailed out, and left us to hold the bag. And our president, Joe Biden, said no. We have been in this war long enough for most troops to have adult children now. If you do not have somebody deployed and you're weighing in on how we shouldn't have did this, how it wasn't a good time, when was this supposed to be a good time? You're the same people who tell black people constantly to wait. Wait our turn. It's not a good time to talk about racism. It's not a good time to talk about your issues or your problems. We're tired of waiting. That war was started 20 years ago. There are troops that have full-ass grown adult children who they didn't get to see raised because they were constantly deployed in an unstable area. In the last 4 years before we got this stable administration, they had to deal with bounties on their head and they had to deal with backdoor dealings that put their lives in danger as much as the innocent Afghani people. I am not saying this. Exactly. Welcome to the chat, Dolphin. Jennings was such a breath of fresh air. And Cronkite too. Cronkite was more from like my grandmother and them than he really was me. Because by the time I really started getting into the news, he was almost at the age of retirement. But Jennings for me was just a household thing. And I just feel like, oh, that don't matter. Like I said, a lot of people in my circles, especially you, come from all different age groups. But we all remember a lot of stuff. And thank you. Welcome to the chat, Ben3Y. But seriously, I feel like the thing with the way our news is reporting this outrage over Afghanistan is so shady and it's deliberate because right now we have stability. Right now we don't have a president constantly stepping in it and in scandal. So they have to craft stuff because outrage sells. Why does outrage sell? Well, most people, when they're angry, they talk about it. Most people, when they're, oh, okay, Benny, all right. Most people, when they're upset, they watch. And I feel like right now, with an administration that just wants to get work done, that has a lot of messes to clean up, the news isn't getting its fix. They had an easy fix with Trump. Every day, it was another scandal from who was losing their job to who was doing something they weren't supposed to do. We had so many scandals that if you stopped to try to name them all, you would be here for hours, if not days. I bet some people forget that we literally lost uranium during the Trump administration. There was so much going on that stuff like that, which should have had you worried, didn't get reported. Yet they want to cry a river for us finally pulling out of a 20-year war because it wasn't done in the way they wanted it done. This is a problem with our media. On top of crafting narratives, like I said last week, with the clout in for power and stunting for political gain that the far left tends to like to try to do, we have a media that loves to craft narratives that keep us angry, keep us scared, spread misinformation under the veil of they're just trying to do what's right for us. That fair and balance is bullshit because it's whatever gets people watching. It's whatever gets people clicking on their websites. It doesn't matter if they have to print or say a retraction after they've already put something out there that most people are going to repeat anymore. It doesn't matter if the person's in it to actually fact find and tell the truth, as long as they can get a book deal or be verified out of the deal. It is insane to me what the media has become and how so many of us play into the hands. About 3 years ago, I decided to stop watching nightly news, reading publications that I knew would just clickbait. And it wasn't easy. Just like anything, just like taking breaks from social media, I had to baby step. I went from I'll only watch it once in a while to I'll only watch clips to now, unless I see somebody retweeting something, I don't actively seek anything from MSNBC, CNN, or any of those news channels unless it has to deal with a debate or a primary or something that I literally have to watch because I want to be informed. And even then, if I can watch it in another medium or area, I do that. Why? Because we have seen how influential the media is to destabilization. And when I say that, I look at the way they constantly covered the scandals. They constantly played the game with those anything but White House press briefings the last 4 years. The way that last guy could literally take a dump, spread it all over his face, and they'd be like, oh, Trump's out today. His tan looks a little bit browner than normal, but that's just Trump. We literally had a riot happen on our Capitol steps. Lives were lost. There should have been wall to wall coverage on what we're going to do, what the Senate and the House are doing to make sure this never happens again. But instead, we are crying over stuff to depress the vote and to make this current administration look bad. And I'm sorry, I'm not standing for it because I get to sleep at night. I get that stability that I did not have last year. When people were just dying left and right because we had an idiot who decided to downplay, and we had people in the media who had access to him not telling us how serious it was. And I don't want to go back to those days. So yes, I stay harsh on the media now because too many of them are playing games. And we've seen there was a great thread about it on Twitter about how nepotism plays a highly strong role in our current media. And it's not the kind of nepotism that you think. It's not the daughters and sons of actual journalists who work the work and establish themselves. You are seeing executives who have no real dime and no real journalistic integrity, letting their little crotch goblins, who are already getting passed through life and school, become the newest word on media and journalistic integrity, which they have nothing of. It's why you see so many hit pieces against politicians who are actually doing the work versus those who stunt for clout. And that is a problem within our today's media that too many people don't want to touch upon. The fact that there is an open door system if you have the money and the credentials via your family ties versus those who actually want to be in media to spread the truth, to do real investigative reporting. And I know that it's not black and white. There are plenty of people who probably use that foot in the door from family names and are doing a good job. I think of Ronan Farrow. Now, I'm not acting like Ronan Farrow doesn't have problems, but if I had to think of somebody who more than likely got his position through nepotism, but uses his voice and his power to help people, he is definitely one of the names that I would say does it in the right way. But do I still think that if he wasn't Mia Farrow's son, if he didn't have those Hollywood ties, that he wouldn't be where he was? Come on. There's a problem within our media, and that problem affects us because every time we try to organize, every time we try to have a campaign where we uplift people who want to do the work, every time we try to get our society a little bit more stable, so that more people can have and less people can be miserable, we are inundated by media that reminds us how awful things are. And I'm not saying everything has to be sunshine and bunnies all the time, and they always got to report on happy-go-lucky things, because that can be manufactured too to spread a narrative. What I want is actual balance, and we don't have that here in the U.S. I look at news the way it's done around the world, and it's not a perfect system, but because I've been learning the German language, I watch a lot of news in Germany. I watch a lot of Japanese news. I watch Korean news, and I watch a lot of the BBC. because they don't have a dime in that quarter to what goes on in our politics. They don't care about what's going on in our neck of the woods in the same way we do. They can have that critical yet humanitarian eye when they look at stuff that happens over here with us. They have more neutrality when it comes to talking about news that happens in America than the Americans who are supposedly fair and balanced. I hate it hearing that slogan. And you know who uses that slogan more than anybody else? Fox News. Fox, I want to scare old white people into believing that everything's against them except for us. We're the only ones who will tell you the truth, even though we lie 24/7, including about being an American-owned company. Because the last I checked, unless something happened to recent, the people who own Fox News are not American. But they sell that manufactured, fake, patriotic lie. And they twist themselves to keep that fake lie going. And what's worse is we have this other lie that the other guys are liberally leaning. That the liberal media, all they want to do is shit on conservatives and talk about how bad things are. And we've bought into that for far too long. MSNBC isn't liberal. You might get a few things out of Joy Reid questioning a right-winger about a lie they say because getting them gives her ratings. But why is she having so many of them on her show if she's supposedly a liberal voice? We never questioned why her show was so popular. It's because we watched her eviscerate people who were just lying. But she could have did more good not having them on in the first place. Because whether or not she was using them to point out how ignorant and how much lies they were trying to spread, she was still giving their lies amplification. And this is something I had to learn myself, especially on social media. There are ways to confront a lie without amplifying it. There are ways to call out people like the Candace Owens, the Bree Brees, and all those other paid character actors online without constantly amplifying them, thus giving them clout and credit they don't deserve. I don't let any of those people rent space in my head anymore. So when I see news shows have these people on when you know they're liars to spout lies just so that your league can say, see, you're lying. I'm just going to argue with you because that gives them ratings. We need to stop doing that. A friend of mine made a good point about Morning Joe. The only reason why I know of Morning Joe and Mika is because of people angry tweeting about that motherfucker. I never watched the show. It's not anything that ever spoke to me. Why would I get my morning news from a conservative looking white guy and his wife, who I heard back then she wasn't his wife? There's a lot of scandal going on with those two. Never interested me. And every time I heard about Morning Joe, it was through angry people watching them. Oh, I can't believe he said that. I can't believe they helped enable Trump. But why are you watching them then? It's like The View. I tried several times in several incarnations of that show to give it a chance. The Rosie era. The Big Bird, as I like to call her, era. Oh, my dad. I could not get through it. Why? Because if I want to hear people argue about social events and stuff, it's more interesting out in public. Why would I sit and have that invading my TV in my home, which is my peaceful sanctuary? Some of us invite that chaos and then wonder why we feel so toxic and depressed and angry all the time. We give out what we intake. And when I stop intaking the arguing cackle hens on The View, the so-called unbiased takes in the media, that's everything but unbiased. I need y'all to understand that when you say no to them, they have to reorganize and strategize. And it's with that, I hope that more people start saying no. I know it's hard. And like I was saying earlier, with taking breaks from social media and anything, you got to baby step. So don't beat yourself up if you find yourself, you're like, oh, I need to click on this. It's like a high for some people. You can't just let go of that rage and oh my gosh, that scandal fix that we have been, socially constructed to accept as a norm. But if you wean yourself off of it slowly, you'll find yourself so uninterested in that bullshit. So uninterested in people who are paid to have these opinions and to say whatever their sponsors want them to, and sometimes even more insidious than that, whatever that exec wants them to put out there. There's a reason why they tried to make Bernie Sanders, of all people, so fetch. For them, he was just another Trump to the far left. The man was not without his scandals, but you didn't get reports of that. No, old man takes the blame because he's just like the regular people. Ignore the fact that he has several multi-million-dollar houses. He's for the people. He was never for the people. The person who was actually for the people, who worked her ass off and became our vice president, getting vilified. Why? Because she's there doing the work right now. It never was just about her. And that scares people who want those who stunt for power. Because when you're stunting and not doing the actual work and receiving benefit from it, you feel like you're getting over on people. And our news is playing into the hands of those people. That's why I say, please baby step your way away from them. I know it's hard. It really is like a fix to see what these people are fighting on, or see what they're saying about the latest world conflict. But we have several things going on that we should be focused on. I just read that there are people in Mississippi taking cow deworming medicine over the actual pandemic vaccinations. Why? Because we have misinformation being spread like clockwork. And if we had actual news, people who actually cared about integrity in journalism, we'd have more segments explaining to people that we need to get vaccinated. We need masks. We need to be socially distancing still because this pandemic has not gone away and now there's variants out there. But no, their latest stories is to mock the current president for a stutter, to blame him somehow for pulling out of a 20-year war, as if there isn't a lot of stuff going on right now. And last I checked, if you want to be outraged at anything, the fact that there is still a faction of people thinking that that moron that came before this current administration deserves any amount of power. But oh no, the media is liberal. That is insane to me. Exactly. Be a part of it. That is such a good thing. Let me get your name there. Dolphin, thank you so much for that. There are ways to report. There are ways to keep truth out there. And when we mess up, apologize. It isn't easy. I messed up 2 weeks ago. I reported something I thought Cori Bush said, found out she didn't. Do I like stepping in it? No. It is a human condition that when we make mistakes and we have that egg on our face to feel embarrassed, to feel like covering it up, to feel like it's the end of us. But it's not. Especially when you have the integrity to say, hey, I messed up and I will do my best not to do it again. But too many in the news don't do that either. Too many people will say something, do a little blurb of an apology, but they never follow up on it. And I don't trust people that do that anymore. I don't trust people that can put out something sensational that you know is going to get people talking, get people riled up and upset. Realize that it was all out bullshit and not completely make sure that people understand their role in it. And far too many people are doing that. And like I said earlier about book deals, why are so many journalists out there trying to write bestsellers? If you're retired and you're not in the game, that's one thing. But when you have access to journalism, when you are working for a major publication and people are trusting you at your word, and all you're doing is looking to sell a book, shame on you. And even those, because like I said, I don't forgive Bob Woodward. Of the 600,000 people that died last year because he decided to sit on that very clear recording of Trump saying how bad COVID was, 6 of those people were directly related to me, and one was a dear friend that died this year. I have a direct loss because of COVID. And even if I didn't, I can't numb myself to the fact that over 600,000 people are not here anymore. Yet our news would rather argue about pulling out of a country that we shouldn't have been in the first place, instead of the fact that the South is still having dopes be anti-mask. Florida is a freaking mess right now, y'all. DeSantis is going around letting his constituents die, talking about we need more ventilators, but I'm going to take the pay from actual school board members who want their kids to be safe, who want their faculty members to be safe. If you don't obey my anti-mask mandate that I put as an executive order, because he knew he couldn't get it through this whole legislative way, so he made it an executive order to ban masks during a pandemic with a virus that has not been stamped out. COVID is still a thing, y'all. And in the South, people are being ravaged. And I know some people are like, oh, well, it's the South. Who cares? I care. I have not lost my humanity. I might not like the way some people are living their lives, but that's not my place. And it's not my place to wish death on people just because they're ignorant. Because it doesn't just hurt the Al-Qaeda MAGAs. There are plenty of innocent families down there. There are plenty of people who have been vaccinated down there too, who are now getting these strain variants, who are now in hospitals again. We are not getting the jump on it. And we have a media that could be reporting on this, who could be calling out assholes like DeSantis and Abbott and the asshole running Arkansas and the ones in Tennessee who are arguing that, oh, we should have rights so the parents should proceed anything. There's been 7,000 of this morning, 7,100 actually, new COVID cases in the state of Tennessee. 2,000 of those are children, school-age children. We should be hearing about that every freaking day, since our media seems to care about women and children all of a sudden. But do we? Not unless we search social media. That is a shame of what's happened with our broken fourth estate. We have way too many people just trying to go viral, trying to be that next sensation so that they can set up and be lovely. It doesn't matter if the truth gets reported. It doesn't matter if they put something out there that's just meant to incite. It doesn't matter if the things they say depress the vote so that we end up with another unstable idiot destroying lives left and right. That is a shame of what's going on with our media right now. And it plays into so many aspects. I used to say, growing up, watching the media, how they frame certain things, especially within my community, how Black people who commit crimes are automatically guilty, assumed thugs. That mindset prevailed so much that it was nothing these last 10 years to see constant police brutality, constant death by cop, to the point where a cop literally thought he could kneel on somebody's neck for 9 minutes and get away with it. And it was only because people said enough that stopped for now. And we got justice in one instance. But I can name hundreds of other instances where there was no justice done because we had a media that constantly framed us as different, constantly framed us as deserving of harsher punishment, framed us as thugs. I remember one of the arguments I constantly had with people these last 4 years especially was the framing of the term super predators. Because they love to say that it was people like Hillary Clinton that was calling people super predators. And how can you support somebody who called Black people super predators? And it was like, she called criminals super predators. You're the one assuming that Black people are criminals. And a lot of people got mad when I shut them down with that. Because they forget that crime happens. And it is equal opportunity. But what pissed me off was how many times the news failed us. I remember the Central Park Five. I remember not just that odious ad that 45 put out, but how our news framed those boys as guilty, called them animals. And people repeated that because when your news says something, it's easy for it to seep in and for you to repeat it. And so many people ate it up. So when you watch stuff like When They See Us, and I know Anna Duvet has a problem, but I will say this. Even though a lot of it was dramatized, it showed just how both the media, law enforcement, and our own mentality conspired against four babies and took their lives from them. They grew up in the prison system because we convicted them based on bias. Not evidence, not facts, but bias. That's why I say there is no such thing as unbiased media. And that is the danger of not holding our media accountable. People act like that can't happen again, but it's happening all the time. That's why we have things like the Innocence Projects. That's why we have to have groups like that. Because people are being put in jail for years of their lives. And people think, oh, well, they'll get a cash settlement. That doesn't give them a sense of being a human being. That doesn't give them back the years of their lives that they lost. So many of us think the world revolves around how much money you have. And it's really destabilized our society to a point where if you don't have, people look down upon you. But if you do have, people look down upon you. Wealth is a source of envy and discontent. But most people don't want to hear it. It's why social media has been all abuzz with that Hassan kid who bought a $3 million house, and whether or not him buying it is bad for socialism or good for socialism. Point blank, it's not. Because if you call yourself a socialism and the only person you're ingratiating is yourself, you're not a socialist. But I shouldn't have had to say that. But so many people cosplay the role because they know if they can say enough buzzwords, people will pump that Patreon, buy them those McMansions. You just get played and you hate hearing it, but I'm not going to stop saying it. Because the media plays into these games. The quick and easy. The what makes me feel better. Because facts hurt sometimes. And facts don't fit narratives all the time. Actual verified facts won't always make you feel good. But it is what we need to grow as people. I tell people all the time, I feel lucky I grew up black. I know some people don't believe it, but I do. Because when you're black, the world is a lot different. You learn early on that you have to deal with the realities of situations, the ugly of situations. There's no one sugarcoating it. There's no bubbles to burst because you don't get a protective bubble. There's no one lifting you up through society. And most society is constantly looking at you with a side eye. So you learn to side eye them back. But what I've learned being black, especially surviving 40 plus years, is that the truth really does set you free. Even when it's a painful truth. Some of the things I love seeing on Twitter is frank discussions from people who have lived that life, asking the questions, what did you condone? One of my dear friends, Case, she asked a few weeks ago, back in the day, did you laugh at any kind of LGBT bullying or anything like that? Some people, they love to act like they were just saints their whole lives. They never condoned any bad jokes. They never did anything wrong. Y'all are liars. And yous aren't real allies if you can't come correct. We grew up with men dressing like women because it was funny to pretend like they were women. We grew up with actual trans slurs being the norm. Even in so-called progressive shows, they were anti-LGBT. So don't act like you didn't condone things. Don't act like you didn't say things that you might not agree with now. Because true growth is looking at your past and seeing the way you were and how you're not that way anymore. But if you can't admit to it, then you're not away from it. If you have to hide it instead of saying, that is not who I am, how do you know you've grown? Exactly. And that's another good point, Dolphin. And welcome to the chat, G. Feldman. When In Living Color came out, a lot of us was young. I know I was in my teens when it was in its heyday. I tried watching a few episodes like last year because pandemic, binge watching was a thing. And some of the stuff that I probably cackled at in high school and junior high school, I was just like, this isn't funny. This is downright hurtful. Why did I think this was entertainment? And even now, there are certain comedians that I thought the world of when I was a kid that I don't laugh at them anymore. Why? Because I realized I spent most of my life being somebody's punchline. I don't want to do that to other people. And I'm not saying that to act like I'm a saint. I still have my ways. I'm still petty. I still get into fights if I have to. I don't want to present myself as a perfect person. I am a constant work in progress. And doing that means looking myself in the mirror, even on days where I don't like it, and admitting when I've done. And I'm telling you, it's just hard, Dolphin, because we've been conditioned to believe in myths about ourselves, that we have to be exceptionally good to be good people, and that's not true. Most good people have a balance about them. There's always going to be something about ourselves that isn't always the best, but it's just who we are. And if we don't learn to just accept ourselves and to constantly grow and accept that we're going to change, nothing's going to get better. One of the things that I stress to people is you're not here to prove to anybody that you're a better person. Hey, thank you. I'm definitely gonna have it up on YouTube too. I want to say that right. Fluff. But I tell people all the time. One of the things that people who want to change their tune say is, well, nobody's going to believe me anyway. And a lot of people who defend them, well, if we don't give them a chance, they're never going to want to change. And I tell people all the time, if you're changing for other people to see it, you're not ready for a change. I know I hurt people in my 44 years on this earth. I know some people have forgiven me because that's their personality. I know some people who haven't forgiven me, and that is their right. My change did not come to make them forgive me. They don't owe me that. I'm going to be who I am no matter who likes it. And that is something a lot of people don't learn until it's far too late in their lives. Love you too. Thank you. I want people to understand that when you're changing yourself, it is not an easy process. You are constantly re-examining everything you do, what you say. And if you are committed to it, it's going to be a lifelong work in progress. So when you have somebody saying, well, I need people to forgive, why? If you're planning to change, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if people forgive your past transgressions. If you're serious about changing who you are, you're going to do it whether people are looking or not. It's gone red. Yeah, I was hoping it lasts too. One moment, y'all. It might have messed up. All right, I see it still circling, and it's still red. Darn it, we were almost through the whole. Green the whole time. I think this is just a switch. It has to be. Oh. All right, I think I'm back. I just feel like a lot of people, they're in things for the wrong reasons. And when you have a media that pumps up the whole forgiveness, the whole cancel culture thing, cancel culture pissed me off so badly because it's not a thing. A lot of people who use cancel culture never was in the first place. But the fact is, people are going to walk away from you, whether you're popular or not, whether you've done something controversial or not. People will get bored. Your ability to remain relevant isn't just based off your past antics. But if you do something where you've offended people, where you've hurt people, case in point, that guy who tried to step into Alex Trebek's role on Jeopardy. It's funny how people think when they don't have a big audience that they can attack women and Asians and other people that they think are safe minorities to say bigoted things about. But then when it comes time for them to step into the limelight and that dirt is shining along with them, they want to say, this isn't me, this isn't who I am now. Yeah, it is. It's a part of who you were. And if you really aren't that person anymore, you'll step away. And he stepped down, and I guarantee you, it was not his decision. But you can't have a show like Jeopardy be led by somebody who's misogynistic, be led by somebody who's had that kind of dirt. I grew up with Alex Trebek. Jeopardy was another daily staple in the house with my grandmother. I would get my homework done, and that was our hour, just bonding over news and Jeopardy. And I guess I'm a bit overwhelmed with emotion sometimes thinking about grandma because her birthday was just the other day. It's stuff like that that you can't just make happen. You can't just have somebody step in the role and read questions and have the same magic that Alex Trebek brought in. But they had so many good people try for that role. And to have somebody who was gearing himself to be in there anyway manipulate his way into the situation. I say it all the time. Karma might not work on a timeline that we understand, but it's always there. And that Mike guy's karma hit him hard and quick. He thought he was at the pinnacle. He thought he played the game well enough and rose to the top. He wanted to be a game show host and he was going to do it by any means necessary. He picked the wrong game show. Because for too many of us, Jeopardy was a staple. We might have watched too. And now it's green. Like, I don't get it.
Let me back out of this.
Yeah.
Maybe we gotta do some adjustments on your OBS because I had to switch my.
I might have to like reinstall and uninstall and reinstall. I'm gonna hate it because I have to redo a lot of stuff. But this is getting ridiculous. I like to have it. Exactly, G. Feldman. And I feel like a lot of people don't understand that who you are, whether it's the way you grew up, where you're from, it's gonna change. How you change depends on your personality. A lot of people think I can be a nasty person around the people that like me, but I can put on this persona of being progressive or socialist or woke or whatever buzzword they want to say for inclusivity that really isn't. And the problem with the guy from Jeopardy even was there was just way too much negativity around him. He had a 44 episode podcast that he literally had to pull down because it was that nasty. He was trying to be shocking. It was just a persona. No. If you follow the trail of his career as an executive, it was the same thing over and over again of just misogyny. You are what you put out there, and you get back what you put out there. And that's why I tell people we have to be wary. And that goes with ingesting things. It's like I said, Cutting the news off, especially in its current incarnation, is hard because, as I said earlier, it is a fix. It's a fix for your rage, it's a fix for your scandal, it's a fix for shock and awe. But if we expect actual integrity in our media, we've got to shut it off. We've got to stop clicking. We have got to stop subscribing to any publications that just put out clickbait. We have got to stop with the opinion pieces being pushed as fact. I know more outrage is spread when somebody writes an opinion piece than any kind of actual investigative journalism. And you don't think they see that? You don't think they go by how much the profits rise when people are outraged over somebody's opinion on how to make a recipe or whether vaccinations are important, and FYI they are? We have way too much emotional investment in arguing with each other and being upset over somebody's opinion on something than actually following truth. There is real stuff to be upset about. There's real stuff that we can positively affect if we kept focused on it. But we end up focusing on the silly things. Hey, welcome to the chat, Terry and Tico. Exactly, G. Feldman. It has been a breath of fresh air. Welcome to the chat, Trojan. It has been so positive to get away from that 24/7 news cycle. And it's sad because I remember the days when CNN first started. I remember when Jessica McClure, gonna take y'all back some, fell into a well. I think it was Oklahoma, wasn't it? Might have been Oklahoma. She was a 3-year-old child, and for days, the entire country felt like that was our baby. Whether we were kids ourselves or adults, we were scared collectively for her. And we watched and we cheered when she got pulled out of that well alive. And I know now people make parody of it. We watched the other night the Simpsons parody of that. But to see something like that where it brought all of us together and then to go to this constant stream of news fecal matter, it's just a shame. You know, it just makes me sad that they talk about integrity and they talk about being fair and balanced, and we don't want to give off a biased lean when they know that the truth is unbiased. There is true neutrality when you're just reporting the facts. And the fact that we have news media that says, well, we don't want to seem like we're leaning too far for the Dems or leaning too far against this. Just tell the truth. People are going to make their decisions no matter what. But if you're not willing to give us the truth, then you're no better than any of the daytime talk shows that my mom ingests all the time. I don't need manufactured drama. And I don't need big sensational news stories to be outraged. I'm literally in a country that has the ability to not only give out free vaccinations, but to mask up and social distance, and people are fighting against it. I'm living in a country that still has fair and so-called free elections that are allowing states to have people pass voter restriction laws. I am living in a country where we have the right to exist, yet are still trying to pass laws banning people from identifying the way they are. There is plenty for us to focus on, y'all. And there are plenty of people out there that just want to report the news the way it should be reported. But they're not being amplified because they're not doing what they do to get a book deal. They don't care if they're famous, or if they do, they're really good at hiding it. And we never sing them until they're gone. I wish more people had sung the praises of Peter Jennings. I wish more people knew who he was, but that wasn't why he got into the business. And I wish we had more Peter Jennings out there. Less gotcha, less infusing their own personal takes, just reporting the facts. Because if we keep on with the sensationalist lean, we're going to have more instability. We had chaos for 4 years, and the media thought they could control it. They thought, oh, if we just report on it in a willy-nilly fashion, we'll show people that, yeah, you should be angry, but it's fun. There are literal people on and off the record talking about how they missed the easy access they had to the last administration. You didn't have easy access. You had a front row seat to the biggest floppy circus in the world. And you helped him spin his lies. And you helped amplify his lies. And I don't want to go back to that ever again. So I want all of us to start holding these people who swear they have journalistic integrity accountable. And how do we do that? By not watching. And if it's hard for you, like I said earlier, baby step. Take a night where instead of turning on the MSNBC or the CNN, or a morning where you do it, put on videos of reflecting or pets. Pet videos for me is like a dose of dopamine right in my brain. So much better than the latest spin BS. When I need news, I go and I check online. I read. I verify. If I see a clip now, especially after what happened with the Cori Bush thing, I am triple verifying what I ingest. If you send me a DM and I trust you enough to be in my DM, it better be something that is verifiable. And I'm telling y'all right now, no more asking me to retweet stuff in DMs. If you need me to retweet something, put it out where everybody can see it. I am done playing these games because I don't want to spread misinformation. And it's not because I want to make a name for myself or I want to become a trusted figure. It's because I don't like misinformation. I don't care. We're all going to be space dust one day. Making myself famous has never been a thing. I'm a writer, first of all. If anything, I would want characters I create to be more known than me. But what I really don't want to do is utilize a medium that should be used for truth to be a platform for me to help spread more misinformation. So I'm begging you, double verify before you share and cut the cord to some of these cable stations. Cut the BS that you read on some of these clickbait news, and I say news lightly, like Political. You know, I wouldn't even know about Political if people weren't angrily tweeting every time they put out another hit piece against this current administration. Exactly, Terry. And I am so tired of alternative facts because that's just lies. It's not alternative facts, it's lies. And we're done accepting lies from our media. We're done putting lies on social media. We need truth. And even if the truth is harsh, even if we don't always like it, it is better for all of us than the constant spin and BS that people have been putting out there. But I'm going to get ready to wrap up just a little bit early, y'all. I normally don't do this, and I'm hoping next week to have a full hour show. But I really want to wrap up on a high note, and the stream is still pretty strong. Axio and I will be back tomorrow on his channel for a Gen X Cynics cast. We're going to be reviewing Masters of the Universe, and it's just lighthearted, geeky stuff. I am so thankful for all of you who join in the chat every week, and I'm thankful to all of you who watch the show on YouTube and stuff. Y'all's support has helped keep me doing this. Like I said, August is always a hard month for me, but it feels good to be able to get on and do this with you guys. I really love you guys so much, but I'm going to wrap this up, get dinner started. He's getting ready to fire up the music. Go on.